They have an old saying on the water, red sky at night, sailor's delight. But there is no mariner's proverb for a sky that bleeds a hyper-realistic crimson, raining chunks of rotting flesh and bone down upon the deck. There is no survival manual that tells you what to do when you look over the railing and see the unblinking, dead faces of hundreds of passengers staring right back up at you from inches beneath the glassy water. We were adrift in a graveyard of silent, derelict ships. This was supposed to be my honeymoon. Instead, I found myself trapped on a ghost ship, drifting aimlessly into the very mouth of hell. This was supposed to be my honeymoon. I sat on the bare metal seat, a slab really, and tried to pass the time. The distant sound of ocean water on metal did little to soothe my nerves, though it had done so quite well above deck. Resting there in the sterile, stifling cell within the bowels of that ship gave me plenty of time to reflect on the events that had somehow led me here. It was supposed to be a vacation, happiness, carefree screwing around and actual screwing and little else. Graham and Sam was the official title the two of us had been given by friends. Nobody could figure out how to successfully combine the two into one Uber name like Benifer, which I was thankful for. Sam, beautiful Samantha. Despite what my mother had said about her nose being too big for her face, her ass being too big in general, and her haircut being, well, you know. I knew the criticism came out of fear of losing her only son to some strange woman. Under any other circumstances, the two generous, kind, and low-maintenance girls could have been best friends. Sam had bought an entire wardrobe for the cruise. When we were boarding the massive ship, I considered the fact I might be arm in arm with the wrong woman. It was as if I'd somehow engaged in some cosmic square dance that had switched my frugal, casually dressed Sam with some flowered tropical goddess. Her ass was a bit big, though. That's the reason she and I had fought the night before. She had it in her head to wear some floss-like number to the ship's pool, and I had vehemently disapproved. When she said no one would even give her a second look, I absent-mindedly stated that it was hard to miss. Then it was as if some unseen bell signaled the first round of a cage fight. I had done quite well to avoid such pitfalls leading up to this disaster. Now I was sitting in the cell. I lost track of the time after a few hours piled up, but I had the distinct feeling that morning had come. Morning. Sam would have been missing all night then. If she had turned up at any point since security dragged me down there, they surely would have come back to give me the good news. Guess what? It turns out you didn't kill your wife after all. Our bad. I couldn't really blame them. If I had heard a newlywed couple engaged in a shouting match as loud as ours, if that new bride had then disappeared completely from the ship, I would be pointing the finger just as fervently as anyone had pointed to me. Hey! An unfamiliar voice called down the corridor leading to the security station. Hey, I called back. A pudgy little man in a pair of palm tree shorts and flip-flops hustled into the room as if he were outrunning a fire. His face wore a look of concern mixed with the half-smile of someone about to deliver good news. "Come on, let's get you out of here," he said. "What?" "Listen, I don't want to get into any more trouble than I'm already in." The pudgy man seemed to ignore my words and busily began searching a nearby desk. Important-looking papers spilled from the desk's surface and the pudgy man began emptying out drawers. "Stop that!" I was now standing, clutching the cell bars. The metal was so frigid that they stung my worried, overheated flesh. Finally, the man rooted out a ring of keys and started toward the cell. "It's okay, trust me. One of the guards sent me." I don't understand." "Good, then that's two of us." Within moments, the proper key was located and the cell door was open. The first thing I wanted to do was hug this strange little man, but his lack of shirt and sunburn made for a powerful deterrent. "I'm Glenn." The man thrust out his hand, holding it there stubbornly until I seized it. "Graham, seriously though, what's going on?" Glenn turned back down the corridor and hustled away, causing me to shuffle along and keep pace. The imaginary fire was apparently behind us now. "So you're the guy they thought killed his wife?" "Yeah, did you find her? Is she okay?" God, sorry kid, I should have said right away." I stopped, thrusting a hand out against the corridor wall for support. "She's not... Is she okay?" I watched as the strange little man's festive shorts bobbed away, down the passage and around a corner. "No, kid, no." The voice echoed through the small space and rattled sharply in my ears. For a moment, I felt as if my heart was going to burst. It was a cold, sick sort of feeling that made my blood feel thick and sluggish. My estimate had been close, but not entirely correct. When I emerged from below deck, the sky was still dark, a seemingly infinite canvas of sparkling pinpricks. It probably was morning, but well before dawn. Glenn was nowhere to be seen, and I caught myself slipping on the rain-slicked wooden deck. At least it appeared to be rain. I hadn't heard any storms passing during my incarceration. "Kid!" called a voice from above. Glenn was already a floor above me, calling down from over the rails. "Move it, kid! We have to get higher!" I instead looked out over the water. There was nothing around for as far as the eye could see, despite the fact we were supposedly going ashore in light of the suspected murder. I walked to the rail and cast my gaze into the water. It was astoundingly still for open ocean, save for the occasional rise and fall of its green glass surface. Like the swelling chest of a contented dreamer, I felt the strange desire to try walking across its near-perfect surface. "Get away from the fucking rail!" Glenn screamed from on high. It was like the voice of God if God were a tiny, doughy accountant type in his late 40s. I didn't break from staring at the water. I couldn't, really. It was a bit like looking into an Escher drawing. A fascinating image that fixed your attention and dared your mind to make sense of it. Sam, Samantha, beautiful, short black hair, her wonderful nose, there she was. She, below the surface, staring up at me with a blank, pale expression. She stayed less than an inch below the water and would not breach that boundary. Her eyes were wide, her parted lips burned by salt. Wasting little time, I pulled my shoes off and began climbing the metal barrier between us. At the precise moment I kicked off from the ship, I felt the sensation of falling come to a sudden and unwelcome halt. A hand had worked its way around my belt, and now that hand, whoever it belonged to, was the only thing keeping me from rescuing my one true love. "Shit!" came a deep, jarring voice behind me. It clearly wasn't Glenn. "Help! Help me pull this dipshit in!" I slid across the wet deck, face down, after a series of unknown persons with grasping, groping digits reeled me up like a prize-winning catch. "Sam!" I screamed as I struggled to get to my feet, only managing to slide and thrash on the slick surface. "I have to get to her!" My eyes moved up, taking in the sight of the person who had caught me in midair. He was tall, very tall, black, muscular, wearing a security uniform minus the overshirt. His white t-shirt was stained with sweat around the neck and armpits, along with red smears across the chest. "Fuck you!" I lashed out in a voice that was quickly becoming hoarse. "Fuck you! I had her!" The tall man offered his hand to me, but I refused to accept it and instead slowly managed to stand of my own volition. "She's dead," the tall man said flatly. It was clear he was neither surprised nor particularly concerned about this information. I made a valiant try at weaving around the tall man, only to be placed in a strong, sweat-drenched headlock. "Look, you asshole!" The tall man dragged me back to the railing and angled my face toward the water once again. "Take a good look and see what's out there." My eyes once again met Sam's. I could see her porcelain face, her shoulders, and her breasts held back by that damn bikini top. Her chest was motionless, and while her eyes followed me, they did not blink. Next to her, about 2 feet away, another face. Nearby, another, then another. As my eyes flicked across the shimmering surface, I caught the blank visage of what must have been hundreds of people, all pale, motionless, staring from less than an inch beneath the surface. "See?" The tall man dragged me back again, still holding my head in an implausibly solid vice grip. "What?" I fell to the deck once again as I was released. "What's happening?" Sitting there, dumbfounded, I studied the people around me, the tall man, Glenn, and a handful of others. 2 men nearby stepped in front of a young boy as I met the child's gaze. Everyone, all of them, seemed afraid of me. "Not a fucking clue," the tall man answered, once again offering his hand. "I'm Sean. I know you got blamed for shit you didn't do, and none of this makes sense, but we have to go higher, now." There was a single-file line up the staircase, which was just as wet as the deck below. As I clutched the banister, it seemed an awful lot like the entire ship was covered in a spray of salt water. Sean led the group, and moved much like a military man. His boot steps fell like thunder on the metal stairs, and his cadence resembled that of 100 soldiers on the silver screen. The group didn't stop until we reached the highest point of the metal hulk. Halfway up, I asked a series of questions that seemed to fall on deaf ears. I had found myself in the exact center of the group, which seemed no accident as it prevented me from going back. All right, everyone's on watch. Nobody sleeps, not until we get our heads around this thing. Sean spoke a lot like those movie soldiers, too. Hang on a sec, who died and left you in charge? One of the two men who had shielded the boy took a step forward. He wore a Hawaiian shirt and cargo shorts, his skinny legs descending to a pair of neon yellow flip-flops. Everybody, the man next to him snickered. Everybody died. I'm sorry, Sean crowded the Hawaiian shirt guy, making it very clear that he was about a head taller. I think I'm the one with the security badge. That gives me authority over you and your brother? Lover? Sean backed away and put his hands in the air. Hey, I'm not one to judge. Brother, said Hawaiian shirt, and thank you for thinking my standards would be that low. Well, the brother clucked his tongue, someone's not getting any tonight. Between them, the young boy turned red and put his head in his hand. Clearly, he had been through this sort of embarrassment many times before. Oh, shut the fuck up! My voice was hoarser than ever. Watch it, Sean started. I said shut the fuck up, I reiterated, taking a threatening step toward the incredible behemoth, who chuckled. Who the fuck are you people? What the fuck is going on, and why the fuck is my fucking wife out in the goddamned water? Silence. Tell me right now. I understand you're upset. The Hawaiian shirt cleared his throat nervously. Confused, too. We're all upset and confused. Truth be told, none of us know what's happening. I wish I could tell you everything. Fuck, I'd love to. The fact is, the whole thing is a fucking joke. And you are... I set my jaw and shot the man an icy stare. Kenny, this is my brother Jack. And his kid, Miles. Dude, I'm only here because Jack's wife is a pantsuit power bitch who canceled her vacation to climb the corporate ladder. Kenny, bitch is a bit strong, the brother Jack interjected. She's just not into the whole tropical beach and having fun thing, and... Jack caught a look at my expression, grim and full of suppressed rage. Well, okay, we'll just go with bitch. He took a step back behind his brother. Your wife was the first one to go missing. Sean was now standing some distance away, arms folded, looking out over the water into the infinite horizon. The first one we noticed anyway. Probably not really the first one. Sean unfolded his muscular arms and leaned on the lofty railing. He hadn't seemed the type to show any sign of weakness, but now it seemed as if that horizontal cylinder was the only thing holding him upright. One here, one there. No, we didn't notice. And then they started showing up again. Just faces under the water, looking up at us. A few guys dove in after them, all men. They hit the water with these big splashes like kids doing cannonballs, but after that the water was undisturbed. They went under and didn't resurface. Everything just went scary still, like Alice going through the mirror. Looking glass, Jack added before Kenny's fist met his shoulder with a solid thud. We're a ghost ship. Glenn bopped forward and took some imagined stage. There was a boat years ago where everyone disappeared and nobody was found ever again. Stuff like that happens. Nobody believes it, but it does, and now we can all see it's true. No such thing as ghosts. Sean didn't leave his station at the railing. No such thing. No way! Well, it's just a theory, Glenn conceded. So, again, you're saying she's dead. I felt my blood go thick again. A ghost. Glenn nodded. I stormed toward Glenn and thrust a finger into the little man's meek, double-chinned, mustachioed face. Don't you fucking say that, I growled. Everybody, calm down. Jack clearly envisioned himself as some sort of peacemaker. This was probably a role he'd been thrust into due to his brother's lack of tact. We're all in the same boat here. Hey, the same boat. Wow, I just got what that means. In his defense, I took a few deep breaths and did manage to collect myself. Where are we headed? I approached Sean at the railing. Nowhere. What do you mean? Where are we going? Back home or what? We're adrift. The engines are jammed. Jammed? With what? With who? There's a body wound up in there. Blood all over the place. Dude, it's fucking sick. We're moving, though. Obviously, we're moving. Look, I can see the wake. Yeah, we're moving at a good clip, sideways. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise before, but speaking as an expert, I can tell you that shit isn't common. So radio for help. Tried it. And? You have a lot of old fucking ideas. What do you think we've been doing up here, jerking off? For all I know, yeah. Sean chuckled again. It was the sort of laugh that seemed targeted more at my ignorance than my wit. The laugh that comes before someone tries to turn your head around 360 degrees. Okay, we tried the radio and someone answered. This gruff motherfucker like an old sea captain or some shit. Like that guy who gets eaten in Jaws, barking back at us to calm down, and that help was on the way. Ah, I sighed, relaxed a bit. At least there's that. You'd think so, but I got the feeling something wasn't right about this clown. He's all grizzled and corny as fuck. It's just too on the nose, you know? So I just got this crazy fucking idea, and I asked the guy a question. What? I'm talking to him over this crackling shitty radio, and I ask him, how many fingers are on the human hand? I mean, I have no idea where this question is coming from, just this weird place in the back of my head that's bitching at me to ask. And? The line's quiet for the longest time, just dead air, static and shit. Then this guy comes back on and barks out the answer. 5. 8. I don't understand. Neither did he. It. Whatever. Bastard didn't know how many fingers people have because it wasn't a person. It took a random guess. I just backed off the radio, all dumbfounded or whatever the fuck, and this guy, thing, is calling out to me. It's just going, come back, Sean. Sean, come back. Come back, Sean. Do you want rescue or not? We locked eyes. My face had gone slack as Sean's brow knitted in concern and confusion. Never told the fucker my name. Over the course of the following day, sleep came despite the urgings of the tall security official. There was no getting our heads around whatever had been occurring, and so one man took watch while the others let their frantic minds achieve some sliver of rest. So, Sean, right? Do you think we're a ghost ship? Nah. I found myself sitting close to Sean, if for no other reason than to hide from the blistering sun. The man cast a substantial shadow. I was officially on watch, but my partner clearly didn't feel like sleeping. The guy Glenn, you sent him for me, right? The two of us sat at the railing, legs dangling down over the drop to the next level. Sean was absently kicking his feet, as if it was impossible for him to sit completely still. Yeah, almost forgot, my bad? Don't worry about it. I'm just glad it crossed your mind at some point. We returned to our silent vigil, eyes fixed on the distance, waiting for any flash of light or sound of rotors which would signal the oncoming fleet of helicopters. Neither of us would look down at the water, not for a second. You ever raid Odysseus? Sean eventually broke the chilling silence. The Odyssey, you mean? Shit, Sean said through an exasperated sigh. You're correcting me like that jack-asshole. Jackass. That's what I'll call him from now on. Anyway, I said Odysseus and I meant Odysseus, so fuck you. Silence. I've read it, yeah. Why? That book. That's what got me out on the water. Grew up in the city, never seen a creek, much less an ocean. Then this teacher, Mrs. Brooms, she makes us all read that book. All the other kids were like, fuck it, you know, I cracked it a few times, figured I'd take a look, just see if anyone got killed or whatever. So it changed your life. Yeah, I read about that guy and I was like, he jabs out this huge cyclops eye like it isn't shit. I was a small kid, a little runt bitch, so that worked for me. I've read it 1,000 times since, anytime things get tough. Silence once again overtook us as a seagull called in the distance. I tilted my head to listen. Gulls? We're near land. Despite the audible clue, there was no landmass in sight. Anyway, Odysseus had these things in it, sirens. Ah, I was finally catching on to the meaning of this conversation. Right, girls out on the rocks calling sailors to their death. Right, I don't know. I'm just thinking about that now. Like how dudes jumped in to save people and they didn't come up, like how there's no women left here. Just a bunch of swing dicks. You think whatever's out there, that it's trying to tempt everyone overboard? Maybe. Fuck if I know. I leaned back on my hands and for the slightest passing moment nearly searched the waves for Sam's beautiful, expressionless face. I always loved the water. I started relaying my own tale. Grew up with my dad out on a houseboat. Mom was in rehab, but not the drug kind. Physical therapy. He put her there. Sorry, man. Thanks. Anyway, sure, I like the ocean. Not sure about that now. I'll probably develop a phobia. If we live. If anyone back home believes us and we're not locked away. We both turned suddenly as one of the others stirred in his sleep. It was an elderly man dressed all in white with a fancy hat that now served as a crushed pillow. He'd obviously been a bit of a Don Juan among the blue hairs. The old man turned again, then finally found comfort before dropping back into slumber. I used to make wishes. I was a shade quieter this time. Actually, no, I don't know what you call it, but it wasn't wishing. I just stand by the water and pretend I was sailing little boats out into the waves. Any bad feelings, dark thoughts, anything I didn't like, I'd pretend I was putting it in a little ship and I'd send it off. I twisted my neck, popped my back, and cracked my knuckles. The day had been long up to this point, and the night, the darkness, would only seem longer. But yeah, I don't think I like it anymore. Suddenly, the loud clang of a heavy object against metal shook us from our thoughts. The men who had been sleeping now stirred in different degrees of alertness. Another clang, more like a ping, something smaller, a wet thud, the sound of an unknown object hitting cloth. With a sudden start, Kenny sat up and flung a dark, slick item across the deck. As he did so, he let out a choked, horrified scream. "Motherfucker!" Kenny got to his feet, swatting at his colorful shirt as if it was on fire. "Motherfucker!" Sean was already up and halfway to Kenny as I'd begun forming the idea that something was wrong. "What's going on? Speak up!" demanded the security guard, all semblance of his normal human conversation now gone. Kenny could only point toward the offending item, a finger. A single, blue-green, bloated finger that was lying on the wet floor about 20 feet away. The finger seemed to have been ripped from its source, exposing a knob of sickly, mustard-colored bone. It almost mockingly pointed right back at him. "Shit!" Sean approached the digit as if it would explode. "Look! Oh my God, look!" Glenn was pointing toward the sky, head upturned with a wide-eyed, pale mask of terror. Swirling in the sky above us all was a cluster of seagulls. The churning mass gave the impression of 100 feathered bodies circling a drain. They moved in unison, in an unending loop. "They're so quiet," I marveled. Matter began to rain down upon us. Fingers, toes, eyes, lips, bits of unidentifiable flesh with hair intact. Each gruesome mote fetid and lacerated by the small golden shears of a beak. "Downstairs," Sean ordered, though half the group was already ahead of him. "Down, down." The rush back to the lower level was much less orderly than the trip up. In the place of a single-file line, the group now made a mad descent, pushing each other aside and vying for position as if only the man in first place would survive. At the halfway point, Glenn lost his footing. With a slight bump from an unknown compatriot, his low, rounded form rolled over the railing and fell free. There was only time for a single, slighted whine before he hit the lower deck with a crack. There, he remained crooked and motionless as crimson mixed with puddles of salt water. The sound of falling debris had become a constant din, not unlike that of a sudden and violent hailstorm. As the group entered the dining hall, the echoing clatter of meat and bone gradually grew sparse, then ceased. "Oh my God," Jack finally piped up as silence once more engulfed us. "You killed him. You killed Glenn." "Who? Me?" I gestured to myself, then using an entirely different finger, gestured toward Jack. "Fuck you. I wasn't even near him." "Well, I know what I saw, and I know where I was." Jack turned to Kenny with a smirk and a raise of the eyebrows, but was met only with a cold look of disappointment. "Don't even try, Jack. You're my brother, but I'm not covering up for you. If he says he didn't do it, and you say you saw him, I figure that probably means you shoved the poor bastard to his death." Jack swept his arm around his son and led the boy toward the back of the room. "I would never. Come on, Miles. We don't have to associate with these people." Sean stood at the doorway, staring out into the oncoming darkness. Either he couldn't hear the spat that was going on within, or he no longer cared about keeping order among the group. Was that... The elderly man in white swallowed hard. Jesus Christ, tell me those weren't people parts. His bony, spotted hands twisted at his already beaten hat. It doesn't want us to hide. It doesn't want us to live. Sean was still facing out the door when he spoke. It wants us down there, on the lowest deck. It wants us in the water. I don't care what it wants. I tugged on Sean's sleeve, guiding him around and into the room. All that matters now is what we want, and I assume everyone here wants to go home. Right? Sean seemed to be coming back from some far-off place deep within his mind. I don't want to go wherever this ship is headed. Yeah, okay, yeah, we're going home. How exactly are we going to accomplish that? Kenny seemed sincere, or as sincere as he could get, given the sarcastic tone in every word he uttered. We don't have an engine. We're drifting sideways, and the radio only patches us through to Eight Fingers Pete, the scary-ass pirate. Even the birds hate us. Birds! We are on the shit list of a kind of animal. There's one thing we have left. Sean folded his arms and turned visibly cold, stone-faced. No, I backed away, shaking my head. No, you're not talking about... No! Yup. What? Kenny barely whispered. Sean turned to the door again as we stared hard at the back of his head, where a pulsating vein had now become quite pronounced. Life raft. The sunset cast an eerie streak of crimson through the door and across the room. Sean's shadow now seemed like that of the towering cyclops he'd mentioned. Red sky at night, Kenny grinned and threw his hands in the air. Sailor's delight! No stone was left unturned, no cabin unopened, no emergency kit spared. When all was said and done, nothing remained that could be of any importance. First aid items, flares, bottled water, even umbrellas and blankets to keep out of direct sunlight. We're going to be too heavy. Jack dropped a full 24-pack of separate water bottles to the floor. We can't take everything, we'll sink. Water is the most crucial thing. Sean studied a fishing rod in his hands and wondered if they'd even be able to make use of it. We'll spread it out. I took a few bottles and set them on the floor in a pattern. If we keep the weight distributed, we should be fine. That's nice, Sean nodded. I like that. You're a problem solver, probably some kind of tech geek or something, right? Bingo, I'm in IT. I made a typing motion. You're in it? Miles spoke up for the first time since I had laid eyes on him, then laughed. You looked like a dude to me. I shot the kid a smirk. This didn't seem like a good time to start an argument with a scared child. You're going to make a woman very, very tired and frustrated someday, kid. Huh. Yeah. The boy looked at his shoes and sighed. I was talking to this blonde girl the other day, but I guess that's not going to work out. She was the cruise director. Jack seemed shocked and dismayed. Kenny and Miles high-fived. The faces were still there when we began preparing our raft. The vibrant orange thing seemed inappropriate given the situation. Being easily spotted was usually a good thing, but not now. The people in the water, those faces, had rearranged themselves while we hadn't been looking. Entirely different visages peered upward, never daring to pierce that boundary between ocean and air. This is a really fucked up idea, I noted. I don't know. Kenny had warmed to the premise rather quickly. I think I'll feel better if we're in charge of our own fate. No more aimless drifting, just 6 tough motherfuckers with oars and elbow grease. I'm sorry. The man in white suddenly made his presence known. Up until that moment, he'd been all but forgotten. I can't do this. The fuck you can't. Sean was his usual tactful self. I'm serious now. I can't do this. I can't swim, and even if I could, I wouldn't be able to at my age. I'm not going down there with those people. I'd rather kill myself. It's like you said, I'm in charge of my own fate. Sean marched up to the old man and put one large, dark hand on his slim, alabaster shoulder. I don't leave men behind. The old man in white hung his head and slumped a bit. It was as if insisting on saving his life was the ultimate insult to his personal dignity. He turned, walked slowly to a nearby bench, and sat down hard. Okay. We continued our work. The flares were stored in plastic baggies from the kitchen. I don't get why we don't bring food. Miles seemed to have found his voice now. I'm not eating a raw fish, even if we can catch any. Food'll go bad in the sun, kid. Kenny took his ID from his wallet and tossed the rest to the deck. He replaced the wallet with a pack of gauze, then filled the rest of his pockets. We all followed suit. A single scream brought us all back out of our thoughts. The old man slumped off of the bench onto the deck. There he thrashed violently, his back arched, as if he were racked by extreme pain. "Heart attack!" Jack called out. "He's having a heart attack! Someone do CPR!" I was the first to the old man's side, and kneeling there I found a small cluster of discarded syringes. Before I could so much as lay a hand on the old man, I could see he was dead. "What the fuck?" Sean scooped up a syringe. I cleared my throat and took a deep, heavy breath. "Insulin overdose." "Fuck." Sean threw the syringe against a wall. "Well, I mean, it's actually for the best." Jack shrugged. "If you think about it, one less person means each of us has a better chance at surviving." "Shut that guy up," Sean growled, his eyes fixed on the old man's body. "Come on." I got up, put my arm around Jack, and led him away with Miles in tow. "Let's get back to work." Everything seemed to be in place when we lowered our raft into the water. Each of us half expected the thing to completely disappear once it hit the waves. If the things below could subdue able-bodied victims, they could easily drag down the bobbing orange disgrace. Yet there it sat, slowly rising and falling on the water, doing nothing it shouldn't. Sean was the first one down. Using metal ladder rungs built into the side of the vessel, he descended to the tethered raft. Slower than all the rest, Jack carefully descended. Finally, it was time for Miles to join us. "You're doing great," Jack called up as Miles approached. "Just keep going and don't look down." "Whoa," Sean blurted out as his attention snapped to the floor of the raft. "What's going on?" I turned to Sean. As Miles's foot reached the raft's edge, it suddenly jerked to the side. I looked down to see several handprints rising on the floor of the raft. Palms, fingers, all pushing upward from below, moving in unison and sliding the raft from its proper location. Miles hit the water. "No!" Jack shrieked, his voice disturbingly high, frantic, like the cry of an animal being flayed alive. "Jesus fuck, no!" The water went calm. The boy did not surface. "Let go of me!" Jack struggled against Kenny's grip as we rushed to restrain him. "My son! I have to get my son! Oh God, oh good D!" Jack was dragged to the floor as the raft floated free. He flailed as if possessed of some incredible superhuman strength, striking Kenny in the face and biting wildly at my arm. "The mast!" Sean's eyes were wide, veins throbbing. "Lash him to the mast!" "Dad!" The cry was frantic, sharp. It was the boy. "Miles!" Jack shouted, climbing to his feet. "Miles, where are you? Oh, thank you, Jesus! Oh, he's alive!" "Dad, Dad, Dad!" Jack angled his head, caught the source of the voice, and without a moment's hesitation, he was in the water. He executed a dive any trainer would be proud of. "I'll be damned," Sean looked out on the ocean. "I never would have thought. The little guy's a survivor." Within moments, we felt a cold chill born not of the frigid night, but stark and heart-wrenching realization. Jack didn't return to the surface. "Dad!" I could only point. My single extended digit drew a straight line to a gull bobbing on the waves some 20 feet away. It regarded us with a sideways glance, a wild eye, then threw back its head. Its beak opened. "Dad!" A chorus of identical voices, all belonging to Miles, rose up around the raft. "Dad! Dad! 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 Dad!" The commingling exclamations melted into the usual laughing cry emitted by the birds. In unison, the gulls took flight and disappeared into the darkness above. We hardened our hearts and braced ourselves for the unknown. We took turns rowing, and despite the occasional thump against unseen debris below, the process seemed to be going well. When Sean took the first turn at the oars, neither I nor Kenny could muster any admiration. There was no bravery in our hearts, no heroism. There was only the raw and terrifying need to continue living. No one spoke. Sean was possessed of a single-minded drive. Though no sound came out, his mouth moved as if he was deep in a conversation with himself. I couldn't conceive of what to say to a man who had just lost his brother and nephew in the span of moments. And Kenny couldn't conceive of how to bemoan his situation to a man who had lost his new bride. For an hour or so, nothing was said. "Getting tired," Sean finally spoke actual words. "Can't keep us moving away from it." I silently took Sean's position as the large man sprawled out on the floor of the raft as best he could. Whoa! I took a few strokes with the oars, sat still for a moment in thought, then took another stroke. What now? Sean sounded fatigued. Expelling the breath necessary to ask seemed to drain all the air from him. I thrashed the water a few more times, cutting deep and thrusting hard. It's not you. I cast the oars downward and leaned on the ends with my elbows. Fucking hell, it's like rowing air. We're not moving an inch. I thrashed the water again repeatedly, expelling hot breath into the cool night with each violent downward slice. I pulled, pushed, pitched, and raged, but the raft did not budge. Well, that's it. Kenny rubbed his eyes. That's it. I nodded solemnly. The raft turned a bit, ever so slightly, and began to slowly draw itself back toward the abandoned ship. Fate. I pulled in the oars. Fuck fate, Kenny retorted as he stood to take a piss over the side of the raft. Ah, Sean groaned, holding his aching biceps in his hands. Calypso. The two of us took seats on either side of Sean as he stared blankly toward the apathetic moon. Calypso. No one took watch as we slipped into a fevered sort of unconsciousness. If something took us in the night, then so be it. Better we be asleep after all. I was the first to awaken as the raft rebounded off of something substantial. I rose and, as if still stuck within a dream, rubbed my weary, reddened eyes. A fog had engulfed us. Nearby, the cruise ship sat stoically against the blurred light of a rising sun. All around the raft, a series of abandoned boats of every shape, size, and purpose turned and drifted in silence. Sean shot to his feet, nearly spilling us over the side. Holy shit, watch it! I caught myself with one hand over the water. Using the inflated wall of the raft, Sean springboarded onto the running board of a speedboat. We could only watch as that boat seemed to drift further away with him pulling himself up into it. Sean! I called out into the haze. What the fuck? Kenny and I each took a side as frantic paddling brought us closer to the boat. Sean disappeared into the cabin of the speedboat as the raft drew closer. Soon after, he emerged and called back to us. Engine's fucked. Sean kicked off of the speedboat and shimmied up the side of a fishing trawler. No fuel! Sean called over the side of the trawler before taking a running start and plummeting onto the deck of a yacht. He's gone, I whispered. I can still make him out. Kenny squinted into the fog. We could only take a seat on the rear of the boat as Sean began madly kicking at the locked door of the yacht. Bang, bang, bang. Finally, the door gave way with a final crunch. I got it, Sean called out triumphantly. Bang! Sean stumbled backward. He raised a hand to his head, to his eye, and studied the crimson liquid on his fingers. He lurched to the side, and with a final deep-throated groan, he collapsed over the side where the sea claimed his body. Aboard the yacht, the dark silhouette of a woman emerged from the cabin. She brandished the unmistakable outline of a pistol and stared through the fog. She stared at us, and we stared back at her. The shifting water separated the vessels, and just as quick as she appeared, the woman and her boat were gone. Compared to the pinball-like ricochets Sean had displayed, Kenny and I moved at a snail's pace. Full of dread and slowed by fatigue, we created a lasso of various boat tethers and gradually drew vessels close to us. Each ship appeared to be disabled in some manner. From ground gears to burnt-out engines, we were met by one disappointment after another. Upon settling in a tiny metal fishing boat, the first favorable discovery was made. Admiral, we've located a cooler. Kenny rested the blue and white cube from beneath a wooden board that served as a seat. What have got, Admiral? I replied, taking a seat on the cold floor. With a flourish, Kenny thrust the lid off and hurled it as far as he could into the darkness. Tada, beer, 3 6-packs of it. While the ice had long become liquid and there was no telling how old the stuff was, we were relieved to see it. Good work, Admiral. I'm putting a good word in for you when we get home. I leaned forward, scooped out one of the lukewarm cans, and studied it. Kenny did the same. We each threw back the first can within moments and tossed the empty containers over the side. Question. Kenny drew another 2 cans, tossing one to me. If 2 men are stranded alone in the ocean and nobody's around to see them litter, is it illegal? I laughed as Kenny stood again, emptied the cans out onto the floor of the boat, and hurled the cooler into the fog. You know all that shit ends up in one place, right? I watched Kenny sit again. All the plastic and styrofoam shit people toss in the water. It all drifts together in this big swirling dead zone. Who gives a fuck? Kenny smirked, raising his eyebrows. Fuck the ocean. We should really keep trying. I noted, sensing that an unnoticed acceptance of death had steadily been washing over the both of us. Kenny pulled the outboard motor's ripcord with all of his strength. The cord caught at mid-pull, forcing the handle through his fingers. He let out a holler and slammed a fist into the machine's rusty shell. I joined him at the motor. Placing my hands on the machine, I slowly rocked the thing back, tipping it into the boat and exposing the blades. Shit! Kenny backed away in horror. As expected, the blades had been disabled. A tangled, thick nest of human hair was wound around the entirety of the blades, weaving over and between in an unmanageable clump. Within the hair, small crustaceans scattered and dove. Attached to the hair, a woman's bloated, rotting head. The grotesque stowaway abruptly ended at the neck. I dropped the blades back down with a splash. We returned to the speedboat, which now served as a sort of home base. I'll stay up. You get some rest, Kenny said, letting out a sigh. You sure? Yeah, no problem, plus the beer will be gone by the time it's your turn. I stared at the sun for a moment. After climbing into the ship's cabin and pushing past the broken latrine door, I found a large, square bed. Though it was unmade and smelled of human sweat, I was no longer capable of being squeamish. Above deck, Kenny reclined on a sun-faded seat and opened his fifth can. Below deck, I felt my eyes getting heavy as Kenny began singing an oddly soothing, drunken lullaby. I only returned to consciousness for a moment as I heard a dull thud against the side of the ship. From my position, I could tell it had come from underwater. Something had struck the boat from beneath. Sam? I rolled onto my stomach and put my hand against the wall of the boat. My eyes drooped down once again as I listened to the soft squeal of a human hand sliding down the exterior of the vessel. I knew I was dreaming. The entire time I was well aware that nothing I was experiencing was real. I had arrived on land. At the edge of the ocean, I grasped a hand that thrust itself from the darkness below. In the dream, I saw Kenny leaning over the edge of our old raft, peering into the dark water. Then it happened in a flash. Dozens of pale arms shot out of the water, grabbing Kenny by the shirt, the hair, the face. They dragged him under so fast he didn't even have time to scream. I searched for him, but I was met only by Kenny's pale, frozen face beneath the lapping waves. His wide, reddened eyes met mine as a single, last bubble of oxygen left his lips. I awoke with a start. Kenny? I sat up, peeled the sticky blanket from my body, and started toward the cabin door. How long was I asleep? As I emerged from the cabin, I fell to my knees with a resounding crack. The deck was empty, and save for the scattered debris of several emptied six-packs, Kenny was gone. Oh no! I crawled on hand and knee like an infant. No, no, no. Not alone. I can't be alone. When I weakly pulled myself up against the railing, I saw no other ships. There was nothing now but the thick, cottony walls of fog. Oh God, no! I screamed until my lungs emptied. The speedboat floated sideways for hours. I had begun a count in my head, though it had done little to help me in the brig. After enough time passed, the steadily increasing numbers were replaced with a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I cast my hooded gaze around me, looking for any sign of anything. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. I took a sudden, sharp breath as a dark shadow emerged some distance away. As I stood and moved toward it, the black mass began to take shape. It had a wide base, gradually tapering to a peak. The outline of the thing was contoured, as if comprised of rock and soil. Land! I shrieked madly. Land! 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 For a moment, I considered leaping off the boat and paddling to shore. However, even as I was now within sight of safety, this still seemed too great a risk. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, I don't even care if I spend the rest of my life stranded. It's enough to be on solid ground. As the boat drifted closer to its goal, I could feel myself salivating. I could think of nothing but the taste of the dry, salty sand I was about to kiss. The fog parted as I drew closer, closer, closer. Soon, the mass was well within sight and my vision had become clear. Bodies, putrefying, desiccated, bloated, skeletonized, Crushed, broken, severed, bloody, green, picked apart, and sun-scorched. Such wide variety. Hundreds, thousands of corpses. The island mass was comprised of nothing but remains of the dead lost at sea. Each body laid still, well and truly dead, all the way to the peak of the miniature continent. Jaw slack, shaking, I surveyed the enormity of this floating graveyard. I wondered if it was even floating at all, or if this heap of discarded flesh and bone indeed persisted to the very ocean floor. Crabs scuttled along the frozen faces. They picked at eyes and removed tongues. Gulls clustered in the skies and dove for snatched bits of flesh, noses, ears, genitals. The tide beat against the grim, fetid beach, bringing with it yet more corpses, fresh bodies dressed in cruise outfits. I retrieved a flare gun from its baggie, quietly thankful that I'd held onto it. As I put the barrel into my mouth, I let a soft chuckle escape over that metal cylinder. At that moment, I figured it all out. In the half-second before I pulled the trigger, I finally understood what it was. A voice echoed in my head as if thanking me for the delivery. It's sunset again, and the sky is turning a deep, beautiful scarlet.